So let's talk about a hypothetical Cowboys trade that could actually happen, and that is Treylon Burks, wide receiver from the Tennessee Titans, potentially getting traded. So Treylon Burks was a first-round pick for Tennessee back in 2022. He was under a previous regime from a front office standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. So there's a very real possibility that he's lost all of his sponsors in the room. They added Calvin Ridley this offseason. They already had DeAndre Hopkins. They had Tyler Boyd. So that's a crowded receiver room. It wouldn't surprise me if they decided to move on from Treylon Burks. And I do think that the Cowboys make a lot of sense here. Here's the thing when it comes to Cowboys and their trade targets. They look for guys that they evaluated, guys that they had high draft grades on. Like those are guys that the Cowboys do look to go after. And Treylon Burks is a guy that they thought very highly of coming out of Arkansas. So I think that there's a very real possibility that this happens. We saw this last year where, the San Francisco 49ers drafted Trey Lance. He didn't live up to expectations over there. Dallas said, hey, we had a second round grade on him. We don't think he was really given the opportunity that, we think he should have gotten. So we're going to give up a fourth round pick to go get the guy. I disagreed with that trade, by the way. Hated it. Still hate the trade. Cowboys would probably have a pretty solid running back on this roster if it wasn't for that trade. And I'd rather have, let's just say, Audric Estime over Trey Lance. I really would. But that's besides the point. The Cowboys saw Trey Lance and they said, hey, we could get this guy for a pretty good value here, even though the rest of the league was offering 6-round picks for the guy. But that's, again, besides the point. Treylon Burks, to me, if you want to get him, I think you can get him for a 5th-round pick. I do. And the Cowboys have plenty of 5th-round picks. But the problem is, you're going to have teams that the Tennessee Titans look at and they say, all right, would we rather trade him to the Dallas Cowboys or would we rather trade him to the Las Vegas Raiders? Just a hypothetical, right? The league really does respect the Cowboys and the talent that they have on their roster. And they look at that talent and they say, they're probably going to win around 10 to 12 games this year. And because of that, they're going to be picking in the back half of whatever round they want to give us the pick for. So you might have to overpay, maybe give up a 4th-round pick to go get the guy. Now, to me, I think a 4th-round pick is an overpay. I really do. 5th-round pick, I'm fine with that. The Minnesota Vikings did something along the lines of this a few years ago where they traded a 7th-round pick and then they traded a following year's conditional 5th-round pick to go get Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, obviously we know, not a great player, but that's besides the point. So we've seen teams do this in the past. Can the Cowboys do this? I think that there's a good possibility because they do trust their draft evaluations. They really do. And I could definitely see the Cowboys looking at Treylon Burks and saying, he didn't get the opportunities that maybe we would give him over here. And it makes a lot of sense when you look at the Cowboys receiving room right now. I would say one thing that they're really missing is a true X receiver. Jalen Tolbert can be that for them. He really can. What's his name? Jalen Tolbert could definitely be their outside X receiver. But at the same time, I think they could look at Treylon Burks and say, all right, what's the ceiling with these two guys? Is the ceiling higher with Jalen Tolbert? Or is it higher with Treylon Burks? I think they might look at that and say, yeah, the ceiling's probably higher with Treylon Burks. We're giving up a 5th-round pick to go get the guy. We think that's good value. I could see that happening. The Cowboys aren't a team that they're not interested in going and trading for a veteran free agent or veteran players with their late round picks. Now, granted, they did that with Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks, right? But I do think that this fits into exactly what they want to do. So are the Cowboys going to trade for Treylon Burks? I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of teams interested. I really do. Treylon Burks checks a lot of boxes. He does from a traits perspective. Maybe not from a production standpoint at this point of his career. I would push back on people and I'd say, all right, rookie season, that was his rookie season. He was getting acclimated to the NFL. And then this past season, it was so volatile with the quarterback position. There was a lot of things going on in Tennessee. Maybe if you get him with Dallas with a legit quarterback in Dak Prescott, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, I think that maybe the outcome is a little different with him. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from when it comes to a potential Treylon Burks trade. I'm all for it for the right price. If they give up a 4th-round pick, I'm not for that. I'm not for that. And here's the thing: the Cowboys have success drafting in the fourth round. They really do. Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson, Dorrance Armstrong, Dalton Schultz. That's a round that they usually hit on. And I actually do think it's kind of a myth to where it's like, oh, the Cowboys always do bad in the second round, and they usually tend to draft pretty well in the fourth round. Like I don't really believe in that. Like I just think evaluations are evaluations, and if you hit on an evaluation, regardless of what round it is, then you hit on it. Like I don't subscribe to that notion whatsoever. But it is important to note that they've had success drafting in that round. So, to end this topic here, it's a very real possibility. I really do think it is.